Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our live webcasts at this side of the new year. Happy New Year, everyone. If you were watching the imagery up until we went live, you were watching our latest showcase submission from Thibaut Spiessens in Belgium. This is from the Festival, a festival in a city, which name I'm not going even to try to pronounce. We thank Thibaut for participating in our Showcase reward program. So Thibaut has just earned himself a free upgrade to Capture 2020. If you would like to win an upgrade to Capture 2020, or whichever is the next version in the future, then submit your Showcase. There is a dedicated page on our website that explains the reward program and how to participate. We might even share a link with you in the chat below here, although I didn't prepare my colleague for this, so it's a bit evil of me. Tonight we are going to be doing a questions and answers session, which means you get to ask lots of questions and I will try to answer them. So write your questions below here in the comments field, and I shall get them relayed to me, to my iPad here next to me, where I'll try to cover them one by one. I have a few backup questions of my own here in the event that I don't like your questions or there are not enough of them. But before we do that, I would like to comment a little bit on a recent blog post of ours with this cute little fake bug. The blog post was about the future of, well, our next software release and its future on Mac hardware. We have run into several issues or bugs actually in Apple's Metal drivers on Mac OS, well, 10.15 mostly, but yeah, there are enough bugs around there, especially on the Intel GPU driver side, but possibly also with NVIDIA, although there are a few NVIDIA Mac OS configurations that Capture supports. But to make a long story short, we have said at the moment that the 2020 release will likely not work on Intel GPUs on Mac. We are not going to block Capture from starting on such hardware because we fully hope and anticipate that Apple will fix these issues at some point. So as soon as they have done that, we want Capture to simply run on these machines. But it is a heads up for anyone planning their hardware investments to know that Intel GPU only Mac is likely not going to run Capture 2020 for the first, if I am to guess, months, to be honest. Several of these bugs we have reported to Apple quite a while ago, and they are likely dependent on Intel as well, so it's probably taking them some time to sort it out. What happens if you run Capture on this hardware is that the computer reboots and you might even lose unsaved data, so it is quite serious. But we will try and update you the moment we have any more information, and of course in good time for the 2020 release. So having said that, I think it's time to move on to the Q&A. There is actually only one question tonight that I will not answer, and that is when we will release Capture 2020, because the release date has not been set, nor is it official yet. Well, we have something preliminary, of course, but we don't want to spread any false information until it has all been decided. If everything goes well, it's within the next month, so it's not like a year away or something like that. So let's dig into the questions. I am armed here with Capture running on Windows. I don't know if I will be needing that or whether I will simply be talking all evening. I hope I do get to show you something. So actually, let's start with showing you something. If we could switch over to seeing my computer here as well. Thank you. So in preparing for tonight, I read up on a few of the last questions last time we did a Q&A session. and I figured I might have them in my back pocket in case I need them. And Nick Vedder, I don't know if you're watching tonight, Nick, you suggested I might have some tequila for running super old GPU drivers. So I would just like to prove here that I have improved my character and upgraded to the latest drivers from NVIDIA. They're actually from Christmas, the 24th, which that is the main Christmas day in Sweden anyway. So that we all know that I'm running on the latest drivers. And also as a reminder to everyone, in case just as me, you have forgotten to update your drivers, take a look in the About dialog in Capture. You have the driver date here. If it's too old, you should upgrade. Then I had another question that I had saved, but I can see already now that it's been reposted actually by someone else, which is nice. So I think I'm going to jump straight into your questions. So again, if you've just joined us, post all your questions in the comments field, and I shall do my best to answer them. So question number 1 is from Michal. He is asking whether there is an option for better reproduction of device models in 3D views. I am guessing that you are referring to the 3D models we have of the fixtures in Capture. These models are, well, we call them dynamic because they are generated by Capture based on the dimensions of the fixtures. So these 3D models are actually created on the fly by Capture as needed, based on the dimensions and characters of the fixtures. Now, as a result of that, they're not very accurate or similar the actual fixtures that you are using. They are generally true in size, but you can't tell any specific details from a manufacturer. However, there are actually some exceptions to this, and I'm not sure we have ever actually commented on this before, but if I add a shapeshifter, for instance, and use the right buttons on the keyboard, now the shapeshifter has a lot of moving parts and a lot of individual controls as well. So this is typically not something you would want to control from the Capture control pane. But I think you can see easily, even through the webcast, that this 3D model is in fact of the shapeshifter. It is not something dynamically generated. It is an imported 3D model, if you will. So what has happened here is that Atlabase does support actual 3D models of fixtures, and we have quite a while ago actually started using these. The fixtures we have used them for so far are fixtures that are not your basic pan and tilt moving heads. So fixtures with multiple moving parts, such as the shapeshifter, which has multiple axes, as we call it. So this one has, apart from the main pan and tilt, if I can find the right ones, that is. I don't seem to be able to. Pan 1 is the fixture. And pan 2 is a facet in here. So this fixture has a number of facets that are individually controllable. Yeah, this might not be worth it because it will take me hours to find. Yeah, there it is. So I've managed to light the north facet, which has, as you can see, a pan control of that. So we have support for custom 3D models in the library, and this is something we have started working with. But because all these individual parts need to be placed exactly where they should be in the fixture, it wouldn't be easy in any realistic way for you to replace them without spending a lot of time on the fixtures. And also the level of detail and the way the models are designed is quite important for the performance and visualization. So this is something that is coming through the library, but we are not making any promises as to the amount of fixtures that will be using these models, but it is something we are moving towards. It is quite a bit of work on our side, but Especially maybe with the introduction of GDTF, we see a number of manufacturers have realized that they need to start supplying 3D models. And that makes it a lot easier for us, because the one thing we can't do is draw all the fixtures from scratch. That would be too time consuming. So that was an extremely long answer to Michael's questions about 3D models of fixtures. Now, I have seen cases where someone has imported a 3D model and simply put a parcan inside it, but that will only work with static fixtures as an extreme workaround. Now, we had another rather related question from Alexander Koppenole, whether we will be implementing GDTF. And there are two answers to these questions. At the moment, it does not look like Capture will be implementing GDTF. We receive our libraries from Atlabase, and we want to continue receiving everything as a package from one supplier. And we don't see the use of you importing fixtures directly into Capture unless you have a custom build, and that is pretty much the only example of its usefulness. Now, having said that, Atlabase might support GDTF fixtures as an import into the library maintenance, but it's not something you would see anywhere in Capture. And also, there is a lot of data missing in GDTF. So, I mean, just as an example, GDTF defines two types of beams. It's either wash or spot. In Capture, we have 13 different basic beam types, and they are considered a backup because ideally we load IES files. So, and that's just one example of things that are simply missing in GDTF. So we need everything to come from one place where everything we need has been added into the library. So no, we are not adding GDTF support in Capture, but GDTF might happen in the background as part of the library process. And of course, any 3D models that come through GDTF files might also find its way into the Capture library this way. And that's how it was connected to the first question. And then I might as well go on with Andrei Lavrinovic's question as well. Andrei Rudakov's question. Andrei is asking whether there will be MVR support for Grand MA3. This is a very good question. Now, MVR is a file format that contains a 3D model of your complete room environment, as well as fixture patch information. So it's a format that solves two problems. It's the 3D environment and the patch. Now, we are not very interested in MVR for exporting the 3D environments because MVR is based on 3ds, which is an extremely limited format when it comes to 3D models. We are actually going to be releasing support for GLTF in Capture 2020. And GLTF is, let's say, the latest and most standard format for 3D asset exchange. And inside that, we have made an extension that includes all the patch information. So in a manner of speaking, we're doing the same thing as MVR, but with a more standard format that will work with other software. That won't get you into MA3 though, so we're still looking into ways of getting the patch into MA3. Where frankly, seeing that MA3 version 1 is still not a very mature software, there is a chance that MA3 will add support for GLTF, for instance. So it's a bit unclear at this point what will happen, because MA3 is still, well, we don't know where it's going to go, basically. So that was a lot of library and 3D fixture questions. Now let's go for Andrei Lavrinovic's question. He is asking, is there a way to change the view of the report header table? Let's take a look at the reports. Let's add an equipment report. Now this is a small project. So if I'm interpreting Andrei right, he's asking for this top part here of the report to change how that looks. Now you can't really do more apart from editing the name. So here is the name of the report, and then there is what is called the general text, which goes in between the header and the first table. And if you have a, sorry, I'm moving around very fast here, I need to slow down a bit. If you go to the project in the design tab and you have loaded a logo for the drawing, let's see if I have any images here we could use. These are not ideal, but for the sake of testing. So any drawing logo that you have assigned to the project will also appear in the header. Now, if you want to do more customizations beyond this, and I'm hoping this is what Andre is asking, then I would recommend exporting the report. Now, this produces an HTML file, and you can open that in Excel or I believe Word as well. And then you can do any type of customizations you need to do in there. Of course, every time you re-export the report, you will have to repeat that process then though. But that is the best you can do at the moment when it comes to report customization. More questions from people named Andre, that's good. Andrei Rudakov is asking, will 3D models of objects be added? For example, audio systems, fences, tables, stands, cable protection, audio arrays, etc. For example, as the library in Vectorworks. The short answer is I don't know. Yes and no. Yes, we are expanding the library of 3D models. It has been dormant for quite a while as the result of indecisivity and a fast-moving industry. We in general feel that we will never be able to compete with 3D object libraries like SketchUp's or previously SketchUp's 3D Warehouse or what is the name of that latest? Well, there are several websites where you can download 3D models for free or you can pay for special ones, and we will never be able to match that. So what we will do in Capture is try and add things which are very industry specific. Without giving away too much, that would be materials or objects that are specific for entertainment and stages. Some of these will be added with Capture 2020 because we have also introduced some new technology there which will be required. But in general, when it comes to audio systems, tables, stands, then these are objects that you might have to go and find online. Whereas we might have a go at things like audio systems or cable protection, which are more specific for our industry. So yes and no. Right, good, good. Geez, keep them coming. This is excellent. We have a question from Michal. He's asking, will it be best with plots in vector format for better quality and more fixture symbols in plots? Right. So the plots we have in Capture are, as Michal has understood, they are not vector based. So when you print a plot from Capture, this uses the Windows or Mac OS printing system. And these are, all right, not 100%, but they are basically pixel based. So in general, you cannot print something vector based with a few very special exceptions. And the way Capture renders a number of objects, such as trusses, for instance, that has an outline in pay-per-view. So let's take a look at, let's insert a truss here. Let's take a box truss, generic. Now if we switch to plot mode, you will see that this truss is rendered in an outline way. And that's not done using vector graphics. It's a sort of trick in the rendering process, I guess you could say. And that doesn't really work well with vector graphics at all. So because of the way plots are printed and the way the plot is rendered in Capture, it would be very difficult to print that in a vector-based way. Now, having said that, it is something we would like to achieve because people like to export PDFs and expect to be able to zoom into any level and have a vector-based plot. However, it is important to keep in mind that PDF is it's a printing format. A PDF document is tied to the size of a piece of paper, and line widths are based on that physical size on the paper. So a vector-based PDF is, in a sense, an oxymoron because it's not designed for that kind of usage. So at the moment, we believe it is better with raster-based plots. We're not ruling out something vector-based in the future, but I doubt it will actually be PDF. It might be something else, and I don't think it will be DWG either. So yeah, it's something we need to work more on, I would say. Moving on to a question from Sven. When will the pixel map feature to make a pixel-perfect LED screen available in the materials? So I think Sven is referring to, and let me try and find a project file here. Tutorials 2019. Textures or texture generators. Video. All right. So in the library, we have some LED panels. And I think this is what Sven is referring to. So you can arrange LED panels, and then you will have a material with your video content, and you might want to cut out a part of that video content and place that exactly on a selection of LED panels. Now, I can't tell you exactly when that will be available. It is not a feature we have implemented in 2020 yet. It might make it in there. There is an interesting problem involved here as well, in the fact that often the content comes from a media server, and that media server would know the regions of video that you're interested in because, well, the media server knows which sub-portions you have. And with NDI, there is actually some new technology to transfer that information to Capture, but we're still trying to find a media server manufacturer to hook up with to transfer that automatically. So I'm hoping for 2020, but no guarantees. Hebe is asking, when will Capture Sweden start selling merch? He needs a new hoodie. So there are some caveats with selling merchandise in the fact that that is physical goods, and we're not well set up to ship stuff at the moment. So we've discussed a few different solutions. It's something we are talking about, but I can't give you any dates because we don't have any dates either, if it will even happen. But maybe we can sort you out with a hoodie somehow anyway, who knows? Freretak has asked a rather long question. I will try and read it so I don't, or read it silently for myself. Right, so we have top, front, and I believe we call it left or section, right and left, okay. So we have a number of isometric views, and in paper mode, plot mode it's called these days, I'm confusing myself. In plot mode, you can make adjustments in top, front, and right that are unique for those three different views. So adjustments in one doesn't interfere with the other. What we don't have is the ability to make adjustments in left or back. And the question was when we will fix that. Unfortunately, I cannot give any good answer to this. It is something we agree with is needed, but so far it has not made it far enough up on the priority list. So soon in the future, I hope. Terence is asking, will there be Student Edition 2020? And the answer is super simple, yes. The Student Edition of 2020 will be released when we release 2020, so no changes in that department. Then we have a question from Sergey or Sergi. Is it possible in Capture to create a custom fixture, like if it was a fixture personality for a lighting console, but for visualization? No, it is not. If you are missing a fixture in the library, you need to email library@capture.se and let us know which fixture it is, and we will create it for you. If it is something custom built, it depends a little bit on what it is and what the circumstances are. We may be able to help you out, but not in all cases. So that is actually one of the cases where GDTF might be interesting, but then you would need to create a GDTF file. But mail us library@capture.se if you're missing any fixture, and we will try and help you out. And as a side note, this also applies to other things like Cymbals. If you have a fixture where you would like the symbol to be created, or if you have a generic symbol that you would like to have created, like we have, for instance, a number of things here like the LED curtain, the gitter, and so on, mail us and we can sort you out with Cymbals as well. So that was the custom fixture. Then we have a question from Frere. Can we have a way to choose the symbol of a fixture, because sometimes, etc., etc., etc. And yes, of course, you can select any fixture. So let's select a fixture. Here we have, what do we have here? We have an ADB Europe Fresnel. Now, if I don't fancy the symbol of this Fresnel, I can simply go to the library, choose another symbol. This is a bit nasty, but let's take an Acclaim PC symbol, drag and drop it onto the fixture, and voila, you have replaced the symbol. You can select multiple fixtures and do this as well, and then you will replace the symbol of all of them at once. So you don't have to sit one by one for each fixture. I hope that answers the question, Frere. Then we have a question from Mark Hanna, whether in the rigging points we could have only X and Y in top view, and also make it a report item. So there was recently a rather detailed discussion on the Capture Design and Visualization group, which I can't show you here, regarding the coordinates shown in for rigging points in plots. And I think everyone was in good agreement that something needs to be done. And the plan is to change this for Capture 2020. It will likely be through an option where you can choose whether you want XYZ or XZ or even stage right, downstage, upstage, or other terminology. So this is being looked into. At the moment, it is fixed to what it is. Then Andrei Lavrinovic, I think, is correcting his previous question. He's referring to the drawing header of the plots rather than the report header that we were looking at. So going back to our plot, we didn't have one here. So let's add a new plot. So in the plots, apart from the views, we also have the header. Now, while you can specify the text inside the header, it is not possible to customize it at this point, I'm afraid. So I have to let you down there, Andre. Then we have a question from Ariane. How to export models with textures? What's the best way to share models and objects between projects? So at the moment, Capture does not support any format with textures when exporting. The only 3D model format supported by Capture when exporting is DWG and DXF. and we do not support textures with that. However, and as I had actually already said earlier on in this webcast, we are working on GDTF support, and that is an export format that will support textures as well. And it is more widely used than DWG and more suitable for the purpose. So there will be a solution soon with Capture 2020 for this. Then there's a dude called Marcus who's wondering whether we're looking for a media server manufacturer to cooperate with, and suggests that we call Ghostbusters. So I'll make sure we do that. And meanwhile, you can take a look at the NDI, what do they call it? PanScan extensions. These are quite interesting. That was a bit of an internal reference. Moving on to Terence. She has a question. No, she has a remark. She's loving the student edition for when she's at the university. We love that you love it. Thank you for the comment. The student edition is something we are quite proud of, actually, but we rarely get any comments on that, so thank you. Moving on. Alexander is asking, when will special effects like sparklers or flame jets be supported? He has seen some workarounds that are not that good. I can't offer you any estimates or dates at the moment. It is not going to be in Capture 2020, I'm sorry to say. It's been high on our list for a long time, but there's constantly seems to be other things popping up that are just much more urgent. But it's our ambition to do it at some point. Edith is asking, will there be an option for cable length in report or elsewhere? I would also say that at some point in the future, but we have no immediate plans at the moment to do that. When you start to want to do cable length stuff, there's a whole package of features that sort of has to come along in order to make it truly useful. So we want to do it good when we do that. Then Ed Warren is sending some love, which is much appreciated. Thank you. And then he's also asking a question, which perhaps is why he sent the love first. Is there a chance of a nice mirror ball soon? I'm sorry, despite all the love, the mirror balls are still far away in the future. I'm so sorry. And thank you for that as well, Matthias. Some internal advice. And with that, I believe that we might have run out of questions. So if you have any more questions, then do add them quickly to our comments field. There is quite a bit of a lag and delay here with Facebook and everything before I get them. I had a couple of things that I wanted to mention as well, which you might not have asked. And I went and looked at some of the statistics or data we have gathered from our support mailbox to see what some common questions are that people seem to be asking or things they are looking for. And there are a number of Mac users who are asking us to take back the previous or old way of zooming that we had with the Mac, well, both the trackpad and the, I believe it's called the Mighty Mouse or Magic Mouse. I'm confused. The one with the touchpad on top anyway. So with Capture 2019, we added better support for touchpads or trackpads on Mac OS. And the unfortunate side effect of that was that the mouse, which actually has a touchpad on the, yeah, you can see here, on the top surface, then drastically changed its behavior. Now, there is actually an option in Capture. Now, I took a screenshot of this because I'm on a Mac now, so let's see if I can find that. I should have prepared that, but I forgot to do that. So on Mac OS, in the options in Capture, this is not available in Windows. There is an option called, let's see if I can zoom in, disable trackpad panoration. If you change this to yes, then effectively the old trackpad or mouse behavior of the Mac will come back for you, because Capture will then ignore the fact that the top of your mouse is actually a trackpad. So if you're looking a way to get that back, there is an option in the Mac version to get it back. So that is some useful advice for those who fancy to use the mouse properly, I guess. I didn't like the change either, but it was the only way to make use of actual trackpads. Right, we're getting some more questions here, which is great. So David Brown is asking, are we looking of adding the ability to add custom fixture symbols in plot view? We are actually looking at doing that, yes. We do not have it ready yet. One of the main issues actually is finding a good format for it. Capture plot symbols are solid, which means that anything underneath the symbol doesn't shine through it. And there are a few file formats which support this type of symbols. But it is actually being actively looked into, although we don't have anything ready yet. Then we have a question from Andrei Lavrinovich. He notes that when importing rigs from other Capture project files, the patch information is lost. This is not a bug as much as a missing feature. In earlier versions of Capture, there wasn't actually a good way of matching universes between projects, so we didn't have a way of transferring the patch. Since 2019, because of the way patch base and universe indexes works, we could actually do that, so it is on our fix list. I'm afraid there is no good workaround at all. I have tried using fixture data import and export, but haven't succeeded in accomplishing this either. So it's something we're looking into fixing for a future version of Capture. Anthony is asking, is there going to be a better way to update Capture? Yes and no. We are not adding a different update mechanism for Capture 2020, but we are working very, what would you say, with a high level of awareness to ensure that we don't bombard you with new releases every week. So we used to be very fast on releasing updates, but we have found that maybe it's better to try and limit the updates to at most once per month. Which means it reduces the update problem. We're also making some other improvements in the department of updates in general that I think will also help. So we're aware of it, we're working on it on a few different levels. So things will improve. John Rogers is asking whether anyone has asked for a tape measure type thing to do cable runs. That is a very common question, yes, John. Moving on, Alexander is asking, is there a way to move the gel number of conventional lights in plot view as we can do with the patch? So looking here at the screen, we have a Fresnel with the Lee 196 inside it. And while I can double click on the annotation with the patch information and move it, I cannot do the same with the filter. And it is not possible. And you can change the size of the text, but you cannot actually move it. This is not possible, no. Gabriel is asking, what about connection with Grand MA3 via MANet? So Capture supports MANet 2, and as far as we understand, this is output by MA3 as well. I might be wrong here, but I believe not. Now, in terms of unlocking parameters, then nothing will change between MA2 and MA3. We have had numerous discussions with MA about this, and they are quite, I wouldn't say stubborn, but convinced in their own beliefs that this is the way it will remain. And it will be the same for all consoles, in fact. So as a result of that, you might as well just use ArtNet or streaming ACN instead, because those are unlocked when you have parameters, which you need anyway. And MANet 3 does not add anything beyond streaming ACN or ArtNet when it comes to sending DMX to capture. But it's something we will keep monitoring, and if anything changes, we will update you. Edith is asking, can the gel number not color with the color of the frame? Because with dark color, you can't read the number anymore. So in this fixture, we have a Lee 196. And there is a property for fixtures to color by filter. If I enable this, the fixture picks up the color of the filter inserted. This, of course, doesn't work very well if you have a Congo blue, because then the black text will not be very readable on top of this. This is something we're aware of, but unfortunately we don't have a good solution at this point. The color of the text comes from the layer. Paper text color here. Of course, this affects all of the fixtures in the layer. So we might be looking into adding an alternate paper text color or just inverting it. But at this point, there is nothing you can do, I'm afraid. Michael is asking whether we plan to introduce USB keys or dongles, to which the answer is no. We have no plans at all for this. We would be curious to hear why you are asking for this, whether it's something you would prefer or if it solves any particular problem that we might not have picked up on. So please do clarify in what situation you would like this. Anthony Lee is asking, will that affect getting new fixtures with only one update a month? So Anthony is probably referring to my remarks on software updates. But no, library updates will continue to be available every day on our website, and they are not connected to the software updates. Whenever we release a new version of Capture, we always include the latest fixture library, but they will remain downloadable every day. So no need to worry there. Arne is asking, is it possible to export my plot directly to MA3? Now, as I've said before, we will be introducing support for a new file format called GDTF that could be used for this, but MA3 does not support it. And we have no immediate plans to support MVR either. So it is a bit unclear at this point. Now, Michael adds, because he doesn't want to go with his PC everywhere regarding the USB key. And now my brain just froze. So I'm going to have to pass on that question until we have a better answer later on. So let's take a few more questions before we call it a night. I can see them pouring in here. Sepe is asking, what are the terms to get a free upgrade to 2020? So once we announce the release date of Capture 2020, our grace period will start, and any new licenses purchased in the grace period will be automatically updated to Capture 2020, but it only applies to brand new Capture licenses, not upgrades. Tonette or Tonnet is asking, do you have plans of adding a fixture builder? No, we do not. Editing fixtures is extremely complicated and requires a lot of knowledge in many different fields. The fixture editor is, trust me, not something you want to be exposed to. If you need anything, just email library@capture.se and we will have it sorted for you faster than any other option, really. Andreas is asking whether we have any plans to import FBX natively. The answer to this is no. We believe FBX is probably a dying format thanks to the introduction of GDTF. So in addition to the GLTF export that we will be adding, we will of course also have GLTF import. So that will be probably the main way of getting models into Capture, complete with textures and materials and PBR materials at that. And I believe there is a fair amount of FBX to GLTF converters available as well. Frere is asking, can we have a way to have fixture information but without be on a standard view like top, right, front? So I think you are asking whether this information that we have in the plot view could also be visible. Let's focus on that. Sorry, camera focus. So that information that only appears in the top view, the front view, or the section view is not visible in 3D. We have no solution for this at the moment, the only exception being fixture information in a live view, where you do get some fixture information. And I believe if you have assigned channel numbers, you will see those as well. It's very tiny on screen here, so it's probably difficult to see in the webcast. But that is the only other option at the moment. Now with that, because I can feel my voice is slowly starting to degrade, I'm going to thank everyone for all your questions, but I will have to save the remaining ones for perhaps our next webcast, when we might do more questions and answers. So thanks everyone so much for all your questions, and I will see you soon again in a few weeks. I will try to answer the remaining ones and maybe be open for even more, since there seems to be quite a few of them. So good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are. Thanks for watching. See you soon again.